Hello! So today we're taking a look at the Flying Iron Focke Wulf 190 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So obviously it's a very famous German fighter from the mid to later war years that it came in. It was a match for any of the Allied aircraft that were put out. It was famed for its power and speed more than anything, but it was also tremendously manoeuvrable. So we're going to see some of that as we look around it. So just to begin with, we'll move the drone camera around it. So Flying Iron have done a fantastic job on this. It's worth pointing out, I guess, that each of their aeroplanes, you can see a progression as they've honed their skills, shall we say. So each plane gets better and better, and they just become more and more photographic, as well as, being modelled accurately, so they behave as the real aircraft reportedly did. So I imagine they must have had access to some museum aircraft to be able to replicate these so accurately. I mean, just looking up there at the fixtures and fittings and fastenings, it's just something else, isn't it? The material modelling around the aircraft and the quality of the textures really is something. So the vents open up each side of the cockpit. I'll show you how that works in a minute when we're firing the aeroplane up. If we go and look around at the spinner and the blades and the engine block, it's remarkably well modelled. So you can see there, look, and the reflections and the patina in the spinner is very, very nicely done. So yeah, we're at Goodwood. I almost forgot where we were then for a moment. We're at Goodwood in the south of England, if you're wondering. So this is the Orbex scenery. It's probably burning blue, I would imagine, that have developed this. So let's go and have a little look in the cockpit and be a bit nosy. So you can see the period accurate pilot comes with the aircraft, and he's got the typical kit that the Luftwaffe pilots of the era of this aeroplane would have been wearing. So it's more about keeping warm than anything. There's no air conditioning in these cockpits. So you can see I've got the period accurate instruments in here. You do get some options to put a GPS in. There is a tablet, which is like the one concession to, I'll show you in a moment when we go to the proper view. It's the one concession, I guess, to the modern world, is you get some options to configure the aeroplane within the tablet. So let's move the drone camera out of the way. I'm super impressed with how well modelled this is. It doesn't matter how close you get to it, it just looks like a photograph. Okay, let's go and jump inside the cockpit in the normal view, and we can go and open that tablet up that we were talking about, because it hides the pilot, thankfully, when you are on the internal view. So we'll go through tab by tab. You've got checklists, you've got V-speeds, you've got live data from the simulation of the aeroplane, we've got statistics, which is basically just charting that live data. You've got loadout, so you can go and put a drop tank on if you want to. So if you go for long range, for example, and we go and look outside, you can see there's the drop tank. If we go medium range, oh, the drop tank is still there. Interesting. And then it disappears for short range. We'll do short range just for our messing around in the sim. There is a basic autopilot built into the tablet, because obviously the real airplane didn't have one. So if you are flying a long way and you want to go and make a cup of tea, you can, which is an advantage the real pilots didn't have. There's workshop, so it does have consumable items around the aircraft, so things do wear out or break if you handle it badly. And then there's a page full of settings where you can configure the aeroplane. So I've got stress and damage on. You can have things like pushback and things like that if you really want them. There's also you can have simplified ground handling. I have turned that on because I don't have rudder pedals. So without rudder pedals, if you turn the simplified ground handling off, it's a real handful. So you really do need analog differential brakes to be able to keep it in a straight line as it accelerates. And without them, it's a bit of a nightmare. Okay, so you get some options around animations. And you can put English labels in. I always tend to leave aeroplanes accurate to as they really were. I think it looks a bit false and a bit silly having English labels on aeroplanes that never had them. So I'd rather put the time into actually learning my way around the aeroplane. So you can see we've got canopy open. So the first thing we'll do is go and click on the canopy and close it for ourselves. Actually, we'll leave it open for taxiing, but it just goes to show you that nice animation there. So we've got some warnings around the place. It's really nicely done, isn't it? So I'm going to get my paper notes. I tend to keep paper notes on all these things when I'm looking at aeroplanes. So under the right hand side over here, we've got the breakers. So we're going to put all of these breakers in. And that one there. And then over here, we're going to go and put all of these ones in as well. And cover it back over. We'll cover that one as well. And then over here, we're going to do, this is the, now I'm going to get the name wrong here, Außenschluss, which is external power, basically. Okay, or external power. So then, now we've got the external power on, we need to go to the oxygen, which is down at the front, so it's past that handle there. We need to rotate this clockwise, and you'll see the gauge flick round there as we open the oxygen up for the pilot's mask. Then the fuel pumps, which are right hand in the middle. So you've got 4 fuel pumps. You've got the forward, the rear, so vordere Behälter, hintere Behälter, Abwurf Behälter, and you can tell I'm not a natural German speaker, can't you? And Süßbehälter, which is auxiliary. So that would be if you got the drop tank. Oh, sorry, no, that's the drop tank, and that would be auxiliary fuel as well, but we'll put all of them on. It won't hurt. So then fuel valve is over here, and they've put an option in for automatic, which is right at the top of its range. I'm not sure if the real aircraft had an automatic option, but we'll put it there for ease of use. So primer. There's this yellow plunger here. You keep going with it until it slows down. So at the moment it's going quite quickly. But as soon as you get some resistance, it means it's primed. It's starting to slow down, look. There it goes. One more for luck, and it's slowed right down. Okay, then mags are up the front. So you've got a mags 1, mags 2, and both. That's good. And then throttle goes to 20%, so we've got that mapped. We've also got the pitch of the propeller. You can see that is mapped as well. So we're just going to move the throttle about, they said 20%, didn't we? So if that's full, that's going to be 20% there. So this is the propeller control, and you can have either of an auto or manual. So we're going to put it on auto. And then we're going to go for the inertia starter. So the way this works, if I just center my view up a second, you uncover this flap down here. I'm going to move my view because I want you to be able to see this. You uncover this flap and you push this handle down, and you listen to the tone in the background. So this is spinning the flywheel up. When the tone stabilizes, we will pull the handle. To do that, you release the mouse button and then click it again on the handle. Okay, and let go. And we have an engine. Now I'm going to go and check the volumes. Yeah, you can hear me over the top of the engine, that's good. Okay, so we're looking for 1200 RPM immediately. So let's have a look at these gauges just to tell you what each one does. So we've got the RPM here. We've got manifold pressure. We've got a gyro compass. We've got vertical speed, which we didn't have in the BF-109. We've got indicated airspeed in kilometers an hour. We've got altitude in kilometers. Let's go and press B to calibrate that. So it's got a Coleman window. You've got an attitude indicator. And you've got here the vents on the side of the engine. I really should have opened this before I started the engine, because you can see it's warming up remarkably quickly. So that's the temperature, by the way. So you can see by doing that, if we look outside, we've opened up these vents on each side of the fuselage, which allows the air to be drawn through the engine while we're sat here on the ground. Okay, so you're looking for the temperature to get, as it has done, up above 50 degrees, and then you can start to think about raising the throttle up to 1400. Just to warm the engine up. Obviously you can go and do the mag tests and you'll see the RPM drops, but we're not going to bother doing that today. We're just going to take it for a fly. So we'll drop it back to 1000 RPM. Now we're happy with it. So these needles moving around down here are the propeller. I guess it's measuring torque on the propeller. You've got a timepiece down here as well, which is quite cool. It's got stopwatch functions and all sorts of other things. Just trying to think. So you've got oil and fuel pressure over here, and fuel tank is there. Okay. There is a navigation instrument up here, but I don't think it really works unless you show the GPS, which would replace these units at the top left. There is a gun sight, so if we go and sit up, actually I'll put myself into head tracking mode, otherwise it'll be very difficult to show you this. So there is a knob here, or a switch you can flick, which will increase the brightness on it. See, then you get a collimated gun sight, which for its time was quite a good, quite an improvement. Okay. So now we've got the engine running, we can get rid of the external. Oh, it disconnects the external power for you automatically. So we've done the radiators. So let's go and take the parking brake off. Oh, while we're taxiing, I keep forgetting about this, but it's handy to be able to see around the nose while we're taxiing. So differential braking, which is not the easiest thing in the world to accomplish without rudder pedals, but we'll do our best. There's hardly any wind, so we should be okay. Famous last words. Should have a look at this outside while it's taxiing. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? So as I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned earlier, the Focke Wulf was famed for its power and speed. It was, in the true sense of the word, there was an arms race during the Second World War with the Spitfires and the Mustangs and the Focke Wulfs and the later model Messerschmitt Bf-109s all trying to get more power. And then I guess the Typhoon came along and ruined that game for everybody. So there does appear to be some control of if you give back pressure on the stick, then it locks the tail wheel automatically. Well, I believe so anyway. So I'm going to leave the canopy open until we're in the air. So let's go and ease the throttle open. Oh, we're drifting off the runway. Let's get it back in a straight line. Rotate. It's a bit squirrely at low speeds. Gear up. And let's get that canopy closed. Okay, so we can, while we're climbing out, we can go and close the radiator now. So it's a bit fiddly to do this. So you go clockwise to close it. You can go 5 times. There we go. So then we'll trim it out. And we'll turn back around towards Goodwood. So you can see, compared to some of the other aeroplanes of its era, visibility in the Focke Wulf is very good. There's the airfield. So if we come in low and fast, let's open the engine up. Now it's warmed up a little bit. Keep an eye on the temperature down there. It's getting quite hot though. So we won't push it too much. Okay. It's fast, isn't it? So it was over 500 kilometers an hour as we made our low pass there, and we weren't really pushing the engine too much either. So I am going to open the cooling again. We're just getting a bit warm. We'll tootle around and let it cool down for a moment. Let's have a look at it from outside. You can see Goodwood down there. Looks the part, doesn't it? Okay, so something I want to show you. So, full disclosure, I've flown this airplane once before recording, so we're going to have some fun. I'm going to open the throttle up. The temperature is starting to drop back down, which is good. Okay, there's the airfield. We're going to dive into the airfield at quite some speed. So airspeed is building. Flat out on the throttle now. Keeping an eye. Can you hear the fuselage creaking? And we're going to pull up hard. Okay, it didn't shake. I was expecting it to start shaking really badly. We got away with that. Okay, we'll get some speed back. So we're still doing 400 kilometers an hour, look. So we'll loop over the top again. Okay, let's dive into the airfield. Hoping the throttle's, yeah, we're still okay for temperature just. And pull up hard. Oh, I still didn't push it. You can get the entire airframe to vibrate violently if you get it right. I know you shouldn't, but I just wanted to show you it. Okay, let's try some stalls. We've got our altitude back. We just converted all of our airspeed into altitude. So at low speed, it's not too bad, and we can throw the the rudder around, and it's not too bad. Except for, there you go. If you start to get to manoeuvring speeds and you overdo it, it will drop a wing like lightning. And the same goes even at medium and high speed. We're doing 350 kilometers an hour. So if we go for a tight turn and we pull too hard, and we keep the elevator in, it will keep doing that all the way into the floor, unless we let go of the controls, and then it stabilizes itself. So it is remarkably stable, but if you try to force it at low level and high speed, you're going to end up in the ground very quickly. So temperatures come down again a little bit. So let's go and have a look at the airfield and decide if we go long this way and come back in. So how are we doing for speed? 250 kilometers an hour. Okay, so as we make this turn, let's go and get the gear down. So overshot slightly, but we can straighten back up. As ever with this sort of aeroplane, having this huge canopy in the way can be quite the hindrance. So there we go. I think we landed alongside the runway in the end, but I'll take it. For a second ever landing in the aeroplane, that wasn't too bad. And we landed into the wind by luck there, which helped us quite a lot actually. So there was no wind when we took off. In the last few minutes the wind must have got up. Should we go over and see the Spitfires? Let's have a look from outside. Put the flaps back up. How neatly can we park in between them? That will do. Okay, so all we should have to do is go and kill the mags really, but we could kill the fuel as well, couldn't we? And it cut out very suddenly with no fuel, didn't it? Okay, so we can go and turn off the pumps. Let me go and get rid of the head tracking. And we can go and turn off all of these breakers. They loved their breakers, didn't they? Wonder if they could have fitted a few more in. I imagine with a hand you would just sweep your hand along, wouldn't you? And we can go and sort the canopy out, close the oxygen back off. We already did the mags, didn't we? We've already done the fuel, and I think that's about it. So it's pretty straightforward. It's rather mechanical, enormously powerful, and great fun to fly. So we've got a Spitfire that side, another Spitfire that side. So there we go, the Flying Iron simulations, Focke Wulf 190 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think it's great. I know I haven't really covered the Warbirds very much in the channel in the past, so I'm kind of covering missing ground, shall we say, by looking at the Flying Iron aeroplanes. But they are great fun, and great fun to fly together on group flights. I think that's where most of the fun comes from. Anyway, I'll see you again soon. Take care.